Angle bisector. Okay, I'm going to start off again with a couple definitions. What does congruent mean? Remember from yesterday? They are things that have the same measure. For example, you could have congruent segments. You could have congruent angles. That's mainly what we've talked about. An angle bisector. Now, before I define an angle bisector, let's just define the word bisector. Do you know what it means to bisect something? It means to cut it into two parts, specifically to cut it into two equal parts. So an angle bisector is something that is going to cut an angle into two equal parts. So it could be a ray, line, or a line segment. That divides an angle into two congruent angles. Now remember we talked about complementary angles? What were complementary angles? Two angles that add up to 90 degrees. And supplementary were two angles that added up to 180 degrees. Now these ones may not necessarily add up to 90 or 180. They might, but they might not. The point is that they're equal to each other. Okay? So if one of them's 30 degrees, the other one's 30 degrees. So, in examples 1 through 4, ray EF bisects angle DEG. So I'm going to make some markings over here. You ready? If this is a bisector, notice it says the diagram is not drawn to scale. One thing about geometry, you can never ever trust the picture. It does not look like I have two congruent angles, but because the instructions say that that is a bisector, I have an angle here that is congruent to an angle here. So even though it doesn't look like it, that angle is congruent to that angle. Okay? So what do they give me? Measure of angle DEG is 66 degrees. Which angle is DEG? The whole thing. DEG, that whole thing is 66 degrees. So if these two angles make up 66 degrees, and they have to be the same degree measure, what do they equal? So 33 degrees here and 33 degrees here. So what is the measure of FEG? FEG, that's this guy down here, 33 degrees. Make sense? Let's just write a couple statements just to practice some things. I could say from this drawing, because we have a bisector, I could say angle DEF is congruent to what angle? FEG. I could make that statement. They're going to be the same measure. I could say that the measure of angle DEF is equal to the measure of angle FEG, and both of those are equal to 33 degrees. So since I'm talking about the actual measures, I can use the equal signs there. So? Okay, number 2, same story. All these are the same diagram. Do you see that? 2, 3, 4, they're the same diagram. But the instructions said for all of those, I've got these congruent angles right there. Yeah? So I'm going to go ahead and mark them in each of those pictures so that I remember and I don't have to go back and think about that again. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, got those all marked. Okay, number 2, it says if FEG is 31 degrees, find GED. GED is the whole thing, isn't it? Yeah? Well, what do I know about these two if they're congruent? I know that this one is also 31 degrees. So together, 31 degrees plus 31 degrees, 62 degrees. So the measure of angle GED is 62 degrees. Pretty easy. Okay. Let's move on to some without numbers. Okay. DEF, that's this guy up here, is 2x plus 19. GEF, that's this guy, is 4x plus 5. It has two parts to it. It says find the value of x, then find the measure of angle GEF. Okay. What do I know about these two angles? They are congruent. So I can say that 2x plus 19 equals 4x plus 5. Why don't you take a minute and find what x equals now that I've set up the equation for you. What did you get for x? So negative 2x plus 19 equals 5. I'm going to subtract 19. I'm going to come up here. So negative 2x equals negative 14. Divide by negative 2. And x equals 7. That's the first part of my answer. That's not a degree measure, right? Okay. Next thing it says, find the measure of angle GEF. GEF is only one of the smaller ones. It's not the whole thing. So how am I going to find that? I'm going to plug 7 in for x here. So 4 times 7 plus 5. What is 4 times 7? 28 plus 5. So the measure of angle GEF is equal to 33 degrees. So there? Okay. Number 4, measure of angle DEG is 50 degrees. So the whole thing is 50 degrees. The measure of FEG is 3x plus 1 degrees. Find the value of x. Now there's a couple different ways that I could do this. If this is 3x plus 1, guess what this one is also going to be? 3x plus 1. So I could say 3x plus 1 plus 3x plus 1 equals 50. Or, if the whole thing is 50 and I know that I have it bisected, what do I know about this angle right here? It's 25 degrees, right? 25 and 25, that gets me the 50. So I could just set 3x plus 1 equal to that 25 degrees. Do you follow that? So I could subtract 1. 3x equals 24. Divide by 3. And x equals 8. And that's not a degree measure because it's just the x value. If they ask me for one of the degree measures, I can look at it. They're 25, 25, and then the whole thing is 50. Okay? So? All right. We have one that doesn't have a picture. Whenever it doesn't have a picture, I want to see a picture drawn. Okay? You should draw a picture so that you know what's going on. All right. So ray BX bisects angle ABC. So I'm going to start off by drawing angle ABC. What's the vertex of angle ABC? B. So A, B, C. And then we have a bisect, so something like that, that's going to make these two angles in here congruent. Yes? And what is that bisector? BX. You okay with that? Okay. The measure of ABX, that's this one right here, is 4x plus 19. And the measure of ABC, the whole thing, is 12x plus 10. They're asking me to find the angle CBX. So this is what we're looking to find right in here. What's nice is if I find angle ABX, I also know what angle CBX is, don't I? Because they're the same thing. Now, up here, because they gave me a degree measure, I could just cut it in half to find that one. This one, it's a little harder to cut in half, isn't it? So here's what I'm going to do. If they're saying this one is 4x plus 19, I'm going to say this angle here is also 4x plus 19 because they're congruent, right? Yes? So this angle plus this angle is going to equal what? That one. So 4x plus 19, there's the first angle, plus 4x plus 19 equals 12x plus 10. Could I write that differently if I wanted to? How could I write it? I could say 2 times 4x plus 19 equals 12x plus 10. Same equation, right? Just written two different ways. So over here I've got some x's. 4x and 4x is 8x. 19 and 19 is 38 equals 12x plus 10. I'm going to subtract 12x to get my x's together. You can subtract 8x if you prefer. I have negative 4x plus 38 equals 10. Now what would I do? Subtract 38. So negative 4x equals negative 28. I'm going to come up here. Negative 4x equals negative 28. Divide by what? Negative 4. And x equals 7. Right? Are they asking me for x? No. They're asking me for angle CBX. Well, CBX is 4x plus 19, correct? So 4x is 7 plus 19. 4 times 7 plus 19 is 47 degrees. So what can I say is my answer? The measure of angle CBX is equal to 47 degrees. Okay. Any questions? All right. Your homework has posted on Google Classroom. So happy studying.